Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Thrive, Not Just Survive. I'm your host, Nasira Jamal, and today is Tuesday, September the 22nd. I feel so privileged and honored that I get to interview some very amazing women entrepreneurs that are doing what they're passionate about. They have found their purpose. And every day when I do come in here and do these interviews, it makes my heart float actually, because I get to be around these beautiful energies and souls that are following their passion. And what I wanted to do with my show was to encourage and inspire others as you watch the show to see where you're at, what's coming up for you. Perhaps you're looking at the world of entrepreneurship, and meeting some of the guests here, you may be finding that there's some really good information, or they're leading you to a path of self-discovery. So today's guest, her name is Keisha Frazier, and I met her through a networking event, and I feel immensely blessed because she is a soul that just leads from our heart. So without further ado, let me bring her on so we can get this conversation started, because she helps women entrepreneurs remove blockages that could be in their way for success. So this is going to be a great conversation. Let's get her on the screen now. Hey, Keisha, thank you so much for joining me. I feel so blessed.
Thank you, Nasira. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So before we actually get into your zone of genius, which I think is so spectacular, I want to sort of give a framework of your life to my audience so that they can kind of gain or gauge where you're coming from and why you're doing what you're doing now based on your learnings.
Sure. So I have kind of a long story, so I always try to tell the abridged version, which I'll do here too. But I graduated from college in 2010 and then went to work at Facebook immediately after that. Was on this path of just, if you stick with this, you're going to be successful and all of that. So was on this set path, but decided that it really was not feeling like my calling. I really felt like, although Facebook is a great place to work, nothing against that, I just felt like I should be doing something different, and there was more to life than me kind of trying to fit into a mold of what I thought other people thought I should be doing. So I took a leap and started to make my way into the health and fitness industry. And after a while in that industry, I decided to start my own business, which is how I fell into holistic health coaching. And then after health coaching for about a year and a half, I realized that what I was really passionate about was mindset. So I was helping a lot of my health coaching clients with mindset. And it was something that I started to learn more about. And as I learned more about it, I implemented what I was learning on myself and saw how that grew my business. And I realized I really want to help women entrepreneurs do the same thing, grow their businesses by working on their mindset.
That is so amazing. And there's nuggets here that I really want to highlight, is that you went through a journey to even find this place where you've landed, where you know like that's passion for you, and because you've experienced it yourself. And I want people to hear that it doesn't just, for some maybe that it's the first landing and they find it, but for a lot of us, it's a journey. It's a process that, you do something and though it may be a great opportunity like you had at Facebook, it just wasn't feeling like you were aligned with it in terms of your calling. And so I want people to sort of look at that in their own life to say, well, these are just little blocks in the journey, or not blocks, I don't want to use that word. I think just little stops in the journey of self-discovery. So, right. And because you also did health coaching, which led you to even fine tuning it to say it's really mindset that you were really passionate about, and you could help women gain that control over their mind and how things really work. What you think about, you bring about, kind of thing, right? So let's dig deeper. Okay. So then you found this where you really felt that this was your calling, and you started helping women with mindset. So walk us through how you do that. Like, what is it? What are the gifts that you share with them so that they can tap into that for themselves?
Sure. So it's a really unique, I call it one of the most unique mindset programs probably that exists because of all of the things that I include in it. But it really is, the process starts with us identifying the subconscious obstacles or blocks that are in your way? What's holding you back on a subconscious level? Because oftentimes we're not consciously aware of the things that are standing in our way. And so we have to be able to pinpoint what those things are. And so I use things like tarot and oracle cards. I use the Akashic Records, which I'm a certified Akashic Records reader. And then obviously the client's information from what they know about themselves and what I can see in our conversations. And we use all of that information together to really identify where we start, what we feel like the real subconscious issue is. And then we use NLP to release it. And so NLP stands for neuro-linguistic programming, and it's really understanding how to work with your mind, how to work with your subconscious mind specifically. So we are able to practice NLP exercises that really allow us to shift things, and you can release a lot of what you've been holding on to so that it's no longer keeping you from getting the results that you want.
Because I think that's a really good point, right? Sometimes it's like entrepreneurs, they are doing this and trying this and kind of figuring things out by watching others maybe or taking courses, but subconsciously there are blocks that for everybody, like, we have them, right? It's just, we don't know what is actually limiting us from that next step or the next level. And it could be something deep rooted in a belief or in something that we're holding on to.
Yeah.
That is no longer serving.
Yes, it could be several things also. So this was my own personal experience, which is what made me so passionate about helping others do the same, is I felt like, okay, I have all of the qualifications, I have the education, I have the coaches, the strategies, I have everything that I need, but I was stuck at the same income for a year and a half of my business. And I knew that I was capable of more. I just could not figure out how to get there. And it wasn't until I started working with my subconscious mind that everything changed. And that's when I was like, okay, there's something to this. Other people need to know.
Right. And I think that's the thing, right? When you experience it, like yesterday I talked about, let your test be your testimony, or your message, your mess is your message, because when you go through it yourself and then you kind of get out of that mess and figure it out, you're so excited about sharing it with others, because then you can get them out of their mess faster, right?
Exactly.
If they don't know what they don't know, right? What's holding them back? Why is it not working? What is the limiting beliefs? Like sometimes it's just that whole discovery of getting clarity. And working with a mindset coach is so vital and important. I mean, working with coaches, no matter where you are in your business, is a very important aspect to the business, right? And I think you and I agree, because both of us, do coaching at different levels or different things that we work on based on our own zone of geniuses. But so take us through, I love what you do. And I've, of course, experienced you in your group, and the stuff that you do with your community is so powerful. How do you use the actual like oracle cards in terms of, finding that answer for somebody? Like, would you be able to kind of show us?
Sure. Yeah. So usually I have a deck here too. I have several decks, and just kind of goes based on which one I'm feeling that day. But I will ask a question. Like yesterday, I was doing a full Akashic Records and Tarot and Oracle reading for one of my clients. And I'll just ask several questions. They'll send me questions, and then I'll ask my own questions. But one question that always gets asked is, what is holding this person back, and what does this person need? And those answers from the various decks will point us in the right direction. Maybe it's scarcity. They have a scarcity mindset and they're stuck in that, and they don't believe that they can achieve abundance. Or maybe it's that they were told that they would never amount to anything. And so now they have this kind of complex that they're not good enough, or they'll never be good enough. There's so many things that we experience, and most of them are things that we experienced in childhood at an early age, from what we see from our parents, what we see in school, what we see on TV. Just everything that we absorb as the sponges that we are in childhood turns into these stories that we carry with us into adulthood that affect what we're trying to do. And it's even harder as an entrepreneur, because you're trying to put yourself out there and you're trying to create your own dreams. So there's more pressure on you to figure it all out and to succeed. So we really have to get to the root of what's holding you back for you to get where you want to go.
And I love that. There's a couple of things there. So you said story. A lot of it is stories in our head, which are not true, right? But they keep repeating because that's what we've been either we've seen or been told or something that we've experienced. And so there are stories. So that's one thing to kind of decode that, to say, well, these are just stories, right? And so do you actually give, like, for them, do you walk them through the strategies of undoing the stories or unraveling that kind of belief?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's several different NLP techniques depending on what the actual story or belief, or sometimes it's just people holding on to negative emotions like anger and sadness and fear. And so depending on what the person needs, we use the appropriate exercise to help them release it. And then the other thing I didn't mention is we also do breath work. Have you ever done breath work?
I have.
Okay, yeah. Breath work is so powerful. It really just helps you drop out of your mind into your body. You can release a lot of stuck emotions and energy, and kind of tap into this self-healing that we often don't even know we have access to. So
Yes.
all of these things combined allow you to heal yourself in a beautiful way.
And you know, what's funny, because yesterday my guest was talking just about that breath work and how important it is to connect to breath. And
Yep.
it's coming up again today. So I almost feel like there's a message in that for those that watching, for those on replay, really look at this self-healing, because we have the power. We actually have that power for ourselves, right? So so I love that you actually walk them through, depending on whatever it is that's blocking them, or it's an emotion, or whatever that thing is that's really limiting their sort of next step, or their, that thing that they know that they can do this. Like, like you said, right? You knew you could do more, you could do better. It was just something else that was holding you back. So now, how do you work with clients? Is it one-on-one? Is it groups? Like, how do you actually work with them?
Absolutely. So one-on-one coaching is the best way to work with me. I offer single sessions as well, but usually it's a longer period of time, just because, as I mentioned, this is a process where we identify, we release, we heal, and we kind of repeat that process. But we go through exactly what I described. I kind of get that initial audit with my clients, figure out where they're at, figure out what they're struggling with, where their goals are, and then we identify, okay, what's
Oops.
where we want to start to tackle
Can
it.
you
Oh,
repeat
did I cut
that?
out?
You actually froze there for just a
Oh
second.
no.
Repeat that.
Okay, yeah. So it's kind of this cyclical pattern that I take my clients through. When they first start with me, we do an audit, we figure out where they're at, and then we establish what exactly is holding them back, as I kind of mentioned before, from all of the different ways that we can identify that. And then once we have that list, we're able to basically prioritize it, figure out what's the biggest thing standing in your way, and start there. But over the time period, we're able to kind of systematically go through each thing one by one, so that by the end of our time together, they don't feel like they've got, a lid keeping them down, or a weight keeping them down anymore. And all of a sudden, the strategies, they work almost instantaneously. It's amazing to witness.
That's brilliant. So how long, potentially, if somebody's working one-on-one with you, what's that time frame? Or does it vary depending on where they're at?
It's usually 3 months is a good amount of time to clear some substantial stuff that's hindering you, that's getting in the way. I would say most people, 3 to 6 months is probably how long we'll work together. But this process of identifying fears, anxieties, beliefs, it's never ending. This is a lifelong process, because every time, let's say you clear some stuff and then all of a sudden you're at this new level, there's going to be new fears and new anxieties and new beliefs that develop, or that were there but weren't activated until you hit that new level. So, but the great thing is that once you work with me, you have the tools to start doing this on your own.
And then you can identify it yourself once you have that learning, right? Because that's really important too, is to give that self that power to be able to say, I know how to get the release, or I know how to find it now, because of course they've worked with you and have learned it on their own as well. So I think that's really good when you can teach others to also be self-empowered, that they can do this on their own. They can figure this out once you've kind of shown them that initial roadmap and cleared up. Especially, I think, as you're beginning with clearing, there's so much there, right? That's kind of accumulated, so that if you can kind of get all of that junk out of the way, then when you're sort of a little more freer in terms of your thoughts and your clarity, then when other things come up, it's not so bogged down, right? With
Yeah.
all of the stuff that really weighs you down. So I love that. I love it. And so, so it's one-on-one. Now you do have, you mentioned to me before our show that you have some things coming up, or you're open for new clients. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so in October, I will have 3 more one-on-one spots opening up. And so I'm really excited to kind of launch that back out to the public to open those spots. And it's really for that person who we kind of talked about. You feel like you have the strategy, you feel like you've had the coaches, you feel like you should be at a certain level with the work that you put in. Like, it's not a actually showing up and doing the work issue. You do that, but you're not getting the results. That's your first indication that there's something deeper. There's a deeper layer, and that's where you'd want to book a call with me so we can chat about it.
And I love that you know, like, obviously you have 3 spots that are coming up, and so it's not like you work with a lot of people, because one-on-one takes time. I mean, to get to know the person. So you really have like a limited amount of people that you take on so that you can really service them and make sure they get to where they want to get to. And I love that, you know, it is that level of that standard of service that is more about results for that person than to be just getting quantity of people into that coaching session, right? So I think that's so amazing, because then when they do experience the results, I mean, they're just far more along, right? And it's amazing to witness that.
Yeah, it's the kind of container where I could not have the capacity to take a lot of people one-on-one, because it's just energetically for the coach and the client, it's a lot. You know, we're working together. It's the synergistic energy exchange. And in order for both of us to be successful, I have to be able to really dedicate my time to them, and then also replenish that within myself afterwards.
Right. And that's so important. I mean, especially like when you know about energy and how it all works, and, you know, what we need and what we take from others and what we give to others, it's really important to be aware of it, right? Rather than to overextend and then feel that drainage of not feeling well, or different things come up. I want to ask you, I mean, this is something that, you know, I didn't prepare you for this, but I have a question that just come up in my head. Over the time that you've actually worked now with women and helping them through this, is there a common thread that you seem to see show up for entrepreneurs? Do you see a common thread?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of imposter syndrome. What I actually think, though, is, I've been saying this for a while, if you take any limiting belief that any entrepreneur gives you and you uncover it enough, to peel back the layers enough to say, okay, well, why do you believe that? Why do you believe that? And you just keep doing that, it will boil down to, I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy in some way. And so we all have this kind of underlying fear that we're not going to be good enough, whether we're afraid of humiliation, or we have imposter syndrome and we don't think that we should be doing what we're doing, or, you know, scarcity, we don't think we're worthy of abundance. It all boils down to that same thing. So I would say that is the common thread that I see 100% of the time.
Yeah. And I guess, I mean, for depending on whatever's happened, childhood, schooling, you know, media, all of that plays a part to that, right? Because you kind of put yourself in comparison to others or what's going on outside of you, to kind of say, well, this is probably why I can't do it, because, well, look at all of this, right? Especially with social media, you see so many different things out there that if you're going to compare, then you're probably not going to add up to yourself, right?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of comparison, just feeling like you're not qualified enough. There's so many things that, honestly, if you stopped looking at other people and, just like you said, Nasira, focus on internal, focus on how you feel, and focus on making yourself the best version of yourself, then you won't encounter those fears as much. They'll still be there, you know, occasionally, but it really is about learning to work from the inside out, instead of trying to achieve the next thing and trying to, you know, look for the answers outside of yourself. That's where a lot of people get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, and over the months that I've done this show, this has come up so much that really it's an inside journey. It's an introspection of yourself and of discovering of really who you are, right? I think for COVID has brought sort of that moment of stillness to just say stop, right? And you get to reflect and you get to kind of think about what is it that who you are, what you really love, what are you passionate about, what's your purpose? Like there's so many questions that come up when you have a moment of stillness to say, well, I don't even feel right in this body. Like I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So I know for over the conversations that I've had with so many women entrepreneurs since March, and this has come up, you know, where I get messages like, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. And so this is really important, I think, you know, when you work with somebody that can help you peel this back and get really deeper into that place. You know, sometimes it can be scary, right? Because it's an area that you haven't really dove into. But there's answers there. So I love that. I love what you're doing. I love how you're helping business women entrepreneurs kind of, you know, figure that part out, because like you said, the strategy and the knowledge and all of that may already be there, but something's blocking. So it's about getting them to that next step of figuring out that part of the puzzle. So I want to ask you for a favor.
Yes.
Not a favor, but I want to tap into your genius. And can you do a reading so the guests that are watching us or that you know, watch this on replay can kind of experience this kind of work that you do and how it can really help them clear some stuff up. So okay, so let's I don't really have a specific question.
Yeah.
But let's talk about my show.
Okay.
No,
Sure.
let's talk about this show. It's been going on for when COVID started. So let's talk about, let me ask a question of, I don't know if it's too general to say, is this show really helping the people that are tapping into it?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that's too general.
No, that's a perfect question. Let's see what we get. So
Okay, perfect.
what information do we have about the Thrive, Not Survive show with Miss Sarah Jamal? Oh, okay. Let's see here. It's kind of a lot of cards. Hold on. Let me see if I can get a clearer message here. Sometimes it takes a second. Okay, there we go. Beautiful. So we got the Soulmates card, which has two penguins together. So what I really feel from this card is that you're meant to be doing this show. Like the soulmate message is that this is definitely something that you're meant to be putting out into the world. And for that reason, it's serving the purpose that it needs to, because if you feel aligned to it, if you're meant to be here and meant to be doing this, then that means that it's meant to be reaching people. It's meant to be serving people, right? And so not only are you a soulmate with this vessel that you are communicating this information, you're sharing these entrepreneur stories, you're inspiring people, but you're also attracting people who need to hear this message, right? Who feel like their souls are nourished by what you're sharing. So that's kind of the feeling that I get.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that kind of resonates. You know, as you say that, it's like,
yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. And that's sort of like in terms of, I mean, obviously this was a question about my show, right? But for business women or women that you actually coach, it'll be probably more on a personal level, I would assume, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's all personal. It's like I said, they ask me questions and then I'll ask follow-up questions for them. And I do weekly readings for my clients so that we can kind of just continue to check in, see where they're at, see what we're not seeing, right? What's outside of our own perception. That's the beauty of incorporating this spiritual element, is that we get the help of, you know, divine guidance and intuitive guidance. So it just covers over.
For a lot of people, because they're so in their minds, right? Everything is kind of like they have to figure it out. And to get this kind of spiritual guidance or a divinity that comes through this, the work that you do is really powerful. I would find that sometimes, you know, our logic isn't always the right answer. Right? Sometimes it's sort of safe and it's like, oh, don't go there because that's scary because you don't know what's on the other side of that door, right? But
Yeah.
when you have sort of that divine guidance, you can kind of open that door with a little bit more clarity, and know that that answer means something for you.
Yes, definitely. It's difficult as a very logical person to understand that sometimes your logic is just trying to keep you safe and keep you small. And
Right.
so, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was really something, right? Logic can keep you small, because of fear, right? There's so much fear out there. I heard last week somebody saying it's not really the fear of failure; it's actually the fear of success, because you've never experienced that level, that fear of what would happen if I was extremely successful doing this. That sometimes is what the fear is that's holding you back, not necessarily the failure part of it.
Yeah.
You know,
We
and
all, yeah.
right? So it's really interesting. And I think just digging in deep and going in for that journey is really what a lot of people I think are missing in terms of all of the other stuff that they can do. Like, they can get a business coach and get a strategy coach. They can take a course, they can get certified, but there's so much stuff that needs to be worked on that's not related to the external world.
Yeah, that's the beauty of entrepreneurship, is that you're forced to go on this personal growth and personal development journey because you're putting yourself out there in such a way that it requires you to level up and to become that higher version of yourself, maybe a lot faster than people who aren't entrepreneurs have to become that version. And so
Right.
it's powerful.
Absolutely. And you know what, I'm part of your private Facebook group where you do have women entrepreneurs who are in there and you're really helping them with different things. What's it called? Can I kind of talk about it? Just if women are watching this and want to join your group?
Absolutely. It's called Cool Calm CEO, Business Strategy and Mindset for Spiritual Entrepreneurs. And you don't have to be someone who works in the spiritual realm. You just have to be an entrepreneur who considers themselves spiritual.
And is
And
it a women's only group?
we have women only so far, but
Okay.
I'm open to men, I'm open to non-binary people joining the group as well, as long
Okay.
as they come from the right place.
Right. Excellent. So I invite people that are watching this or even on replay to maybe check it out. If it's something that's calling them or they want to be around like-minded women or people that are on this journey, of self-discovery through spirituality, mindset, and all of the stuff that you do, which really can help them get to that next level. Now, if there's somebody watching this and they're struggling, but they don't know where to begin, can you just sort of share what you would recommend for them?
Yeah. The first thing that I usually recommend is meditation because it's easily accessible and it's free. And so, trying to find, I like the app Insight Timer, has a lot of great guided meditations, but if you can work your way up to a silent meditation, that's where you're really going to start to tap into your higher self and get these answers. And when you're in meditation and you've kind of found that stillness, you can pose the question to yourself: what am I not seeing? What's holding me back? Where do I need to begin? What's going to get me from point A to point B? Whatever your main question is, and either sit with that question in your meditation or get out a pen and paper and after your meditation, just stream of consciousness right and see what comes out. Because when you're in that meditative state, you're tapping into your subconscious. You're putting your brain into that theta brainwave state where your subconscious can start speaking to you. And so you can bypass your conscious mind and start to really understand the inner workings and what's going on.
That's amazing. And I want to talk a little about this because I've done this and I do this, but it's about trusting that process.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you agree that for a lot of people, even if a thought comes into your mind, you almost consciously go back and say, oh no, that can't be right. But I almost want to say that you have to trust what comes up and watch for signs and trust that that's a process, that those are answers that are coming your way because you've asked that question.
Yeah. And I often tell people, with your subconscious mind, if it doesn't make sense, that's a good sign, because if it made sense, it would most likely be coming from your conscious mind. And that's not to say that everything your subconscious says to you isn't going to make sense. Some of it will, but that's a good sign. Follow it if you're like, what?
Right. And I like that. I mean, I love that because then you're out of your conscious state, right? Like the whole idea is to tap into that deeper level, to that place where for a lot of people, I don't think they've ever kind of taken that journey. And it's really all just conscious mind. It's all 3D living. It's all about what they see, and they base their decisions on what's outside of them. And they see that as the outcome. Let's say the result is not working, and then to assess everything based on that result not working, as
Exactly.
opposed to going the other way, right? So,
Yep.
right, as to what's holding you back from that result, because what you see outside of you has already manifested. So therefore, it's whatever was in here that kind of
Exactly.
made that happen, right? So it's again taking that journey the other way around rather than looking at what's in front of you. So I love it. I love what you're doing. I wish we could talk forever because I think you and I align this way in this type of conversation. So, but any parting words as we end the show? What you would tell somebody?
I think just remember that it is a journey. It is a process. It is, if you're in this work to develop as a person, as a human, as a soul, it never ends. And yes, that can be scary because, okay, I got a lot of work ahead of me, but at the same time, just take it step by step and know that every step you take will provide a little bit of relief, will make you feel better, will make you feel more confident. So let that kind of like breadcrumbs you're following, let that guide you and let that inspire you to just start somewhere.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. You are such a beautiful, light, beautiful soul. I just love you. And I wish you so much success. But for anybody that's looking for some guidance, I really encourage them to. I didn't actually put this up just because our conversation was going on, and I'm so intrigued. But if anybody wants to get a hold of you, they can go to your website, KeishaFrazier.com/client attraction, book a session, book a talk with you, just so that you could help them perhaps find that place of clarity. So I encourage people to go ahead and do that. Thank you for your time. I wish you so much happiness and prosperity. And I hope to connect with you, of course, in your Facebook group.
For sure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So there you go. That was Keisha Frazier. The website's on. I'll still leave it on here so you can jot it down. Book a call. If you really feel like there's something holding you back, you don't know what that is. Maybe you've been thinking about it for a while, saying, I really wish somebody could clear this up or answer these questions I'm having. Book a call with Keisha. She's a lovely person and really has not just the knowledge and skill, but the heart set. And compassion that it requires to really guide you through this. So that's my message for today. I hope you guys all have a wonderful, terrific Tuesday. Remember to be kind to yourself and others. And I will see you tomorrow on Thrive Not Just Survive at 10 a.m. See you then.